So I'm going to kind of turn it over to Andy Davis. He's from Stephen L. Smith. He's our bondsman. He's going to kind of go an overview of how the bond works, how the financing of the bond works, and then we're going to open it up for questions. And we will answer them the best we can. Andy Davis, Stephen L. Smith.
Good evening. Glad to see so many of you here. A lot of times I go to these public meetings and it's kind of sad sometimes. Only 5, 10, 15 people show up. So this is a great crowd. So I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad you came to get some information on the bond issue. Just a little bit about kind of myself and our company. Can you all hear me okay? Should I use the mic? You're good. You're good? Okay. A little bit about myself and the company. Just kind of know who I am and who we are. Stephen L. Smith Corp. We serve as financial advisors for school districts in Oklahoma. We're based out of Tulsa. We're kind of a one or two trick pony. We do bond issues and lease purchases for school districts only in Oklahoma. So we just travel the state, kind of doing this one thing. So I've been there for about 15 years. Our company has ties in the same industry all the way back to 1919. So we've been doing this a long time, and that's kind of all we do. So in this kind of setting, I typically like to do just a little bit of a generic bonds 101. Sometimes just the terminology bond issue can kind of throw people off. So I try to sometimes just simplify it so in your head maybe you have a little bit better understanding of kind of what a bond issue means and what that is. And so I always encourage people, just in your mind, if you'll simplify it, just think of a bond issue as a type of loan. The school is going to go out, they're going to borrow some money from a bank or a lending institution, they're going to use that money to do all these nice improvements we're talking about, and they're going to pay it back over time. The difference in a bond issue is when you pay it back, you're using property taxes. That's when we come to the patrons. You're the ones repaying the bill on this bond issue. That's what takes a vote of the people. That's why we come to you all and ask you to vote on this. And kind of the driving factor in any bond issue coming repaid by the taxes is what we call the net assessed valuation. And what the net assessed valuation is, that's basically the value of all of the property, all of the land, all of the equipment within Cherokee Public School District. So you add up the value of all that, and that gives the school district its net assessed valuation. That net assessed valuation kind of determines how much the school can do in a bond issue, and then what it's going to cost you all as taxpayers. The higher your valuation is, the more you can do. The lower your valuation is, the less you can do, and so on. And so when you voted the bond issue back in 2014, you voted at a net assessed valuation at that time, and a tax rate that you were going to charge the patrons at that time as well. In the first 2 years since that bond issue was passed, that valuation grew significantly, which is a good thing. And that's why we're coming here today. As that valuation grows, that means you can do and sell more bonds without raising that tax rate. Let me give you maybe a little analogy we use sometimes to kind of help explain that. That's a little bit vague sometimes, but think about it this way. If 5 people are going to go to dinner, each of you agrees, hey, I'm going to pay $10. So you've got a $50 dinner for the 5 of you. You go and you get a $50 dinner. That's great. You all pay $10. Next week you go to dinner again. You say, hey, we're all going to pay $10 again. But now you've got 10 people. Well, now you paid $10, but now you've got a $100 dinner instead of a $50 dinner. It's the same thing with this. As your valuation grows, as your people grow, you pay the same amount, but you get a bigger result out of it. So that's where we're at now. A couple years ago, the 5 people, you're getting this amount. Now your valuation's growing, you got 10 people, you're still paying $10, but you're getting more out of it. That's how you're able to do an additional bond now without raising your tax rate over what you were told back in 2014. I hope that kind of makes sense a little bit, maybe clarify some of that. We can answer questions later if we need to. This bond issue specifically, as Donna said, it's for $7.6 million. It's what we call a series bond issue. A series bond issue means we're going to vote it all at one time, but we're not going to sell bonds at one time. If we sold a $7.6 million bond issue at one time, that would send your taxes high. So we're going to spread it out and sell a little bit each year over time. By spreading it out, that eases the burden on your taxes. It's kind of like when you go to finance a car. Instead of paying cash up front, you spread it out. You're still paying for it. Just makes it easier to pay over time. So series bond issue in this case. Your last one in 2014 was the same thing. You voted in 2014. You were planning to sell bonds from 2014 through 2022. This one is running from 2017 through 2026. So we are extending it further beyond what the last election was. With the same tax rate, just extending it out a little further. So it's we call it a 9-year series bond. So you're selling bonds for 9 years. From 2017 through 2026. Now we'll stay on the tax rolls a couple years beyond that, but at that time the tax rate will start to drop off a little bit. As you pay those bonds off, you're not issuing anymore, it's dropping off, your tax rate starts to drop off as well. So that's kind of hopefully a brief little overview of kind of how bonds work. work, how this bond issue is going to be, the time frame. Again, just to kind of hit the overview of it, $7.6 million bond issue, sold over a 9-year period, 9-year series bond. It should not increase your taxes because, again, our valuation has grown. When that happens, we're able to sell more bonds without increasing your individual tax rate. In fact, there was one other thing I was going to hit, and I forgot what it was. Maybe it'll come to me, but that's kind of all I had for the nuts and bolts of this bond issue. I don't know, Don, if you have anything else, you want to open up for questions, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's important that if you have a question, ask it. I'm going to run to you with a little microphone. Feel like, let's make a deal.
Oh, I know what it was. I was going to touch on one other thing. Someone brought up the point, someone called me a couple weeks and asked the question. They said, what happens if over that 9-year period as we're selling bonds, what happens if that valuation decreases? What if something happens and companies move out, valuations drop, whatever it is, and that valuation decreases? Is that going to send our taxes up? If we kept the plan as is, it might. The nice thing about selling bonds each year, that 9-year period, that gives us an opportunity that each year we can come in and we can adjust our bond sale up or down a little bit if we need to try to maintain that same tax rate. That's our number one goal, is to try to get that tax rate as flat as we can every year. The tough part about that is anytime you sell bonds at one time, it's going on the next year's net assessed valuation. You don't ever know what that is until that comes out the following year. So you're having to estimate a little bit. So every year to year, there should be little minor fluctuations, but there shouldn't be major ups and downs in your tax rate. And so someone asked the question, what happens if our valuation drops? Is that going to make our taxes go up? And our response to that is, we have the ability to go in each year, adjust our bond sale up or down if we need to try to maintain that same flat tax rate. So we do have some things that we can do if, things turn south, whatever happens that way. We have some ways to adjust that and kind of take care of that. So I wanted to address that because it had been asked previously already.
Does that kind of answer anybody's question about what happens if our evaluations drop? How does our tax rate, how do our taxes not go up? Because I think that's been kind of a talking point. And our goal every year is to make sure that we stay consistent with our taxes. And through the things that Andy said, we can do that. And, I try to be as transparent as I can. I try to be as honest with you as I can. And I'm never going to put the song and dance out there for you and say, oh, gosh, no, that's not how it was. I'm telling you, when we go to sell bonds every year, we look at what's happened to the local evaluation and make decisions based on local evaluation numbers so that people's taxes don't increase. Over the time that I've been doing bonds, this is my 4th one, the only thing I've ever seen happen to a bond, to taxes, is they have gone down. And it may not have been very much, but they go down because the projections of the interest rates that we use are very high. And so when we sell the bonds, usually, what was the bond rate of the last, it was almost nothing, what we sold last summer.
Yeah, the last few we've sold, even this year, have been under 2%. Usually anywhere from 1.5%, depending on the term of the bond, 1.5%, maybe 1.75%. So rates are really low, and we're estimating selling forward as high as 3%, 4%, and 5%, depending on how far out we are. So we feel like we've given ourselves a pretty good cushion that even if rates move or if your valuation drops a little bit, we've got enough cushion in the rate to kind of make up for some of that difference.
Questions? Gosh.
Let's do too good a job, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Take this on the road.
Maybe
Andy.
so, I know, we got it all covered.
No, right? Goodness. Golly. Holy potatoes, literally. We're very, very thrilled about what we have done, very thrilled about what's to come, and very, very excited about what's happened for our children because of what we've done. So, just great stuff, good stuff, happening at Cherokee Public School.
Talk about how many bonds you push through a month around.
Yeah, just in terms of how many elections? Yeah, so elections have really picked up recently in terms of number of elections and how many schools are doing. And I think a lot of it has to do with, everyone knows the budget crunch that most schools are in. And so we've really seen an uptick in a lot of bond issues. And with that budget crunch, I really feel like most communities have gotten kind of rallied behind their school. I mean, for a lot of communities, unlike Cherokee, the school's kind of the center of the community. And so they know the budget crunch, and so they rally and say, yeah, we're going to step up and support the schools. And so typically, in years past, if we had 4 or 5 bond elections in 1 month, 4 or 5 different schools voting in 1 month, that would be a pretty big month for us. And I was telling them earlier, we have 12 bond elections this month. We've got 6 next month, 4 the month after that. We've already got 4 or 5 lined up for May. So really a lot of bond issues out there right now. And I think a lot of schools, doing the similar things you all are doing, trying to make sure they keep improving their facilities and doing things like that. And really had a pretty good passing rate. I haven't put a hard pencil to it, but I would estimate, about 80% of the bond issues that we run for schools have been passing. 80-85% maybe been passing on me. So really, that's a good clip to consider that many communities get on the same page about what their school is doing. So yeah, a lot of bond issues being voted on here recently and in the near future.
My daughter's in Mustang, and we were at their house. I was kissing my new grandbaby this weekend, and their kids were handing out flyers at the door, and they're running $180 million bond. I thought, I would never sleep. I would not sleep at night. I can't even comprehend that. So once again, I really do want to state that what we have with the money that we have bonded and we've lease purchased is an amazing compared to what others have spent almost the same amount on. We did a good job with this money, guys. We spent it on the right things, so it's very, very exciting.
Does this bond have to pass by 60%?
Yes.
So, council people would vote yes, please.
We can't say that officially, and the person who lives in my house just said that, so I can't say that officially, but I guess he can.
Any bond issues that way, super majority. So, yeah.
Yeah, schools can't say vote yes or no either way. We're not allowed to. Information only. But I'm definitely not saying, well, I'm getting in trouble, but hello, I'm not losing sleep for nothing here. Anything else? Anything else we can, in the back, way in the back.
Talk about our hopes for wanting to become more one-on-one technology-wise with our kids, hopefully we can carry over money that we'll get to save
Right.
on this bond.
Right. This bond is a $400,000 turnaround for our school. This bond will enable us to keep $200,000 in our building fund, and we will not pay $200,000 in lease purchases in April. With that money, our plan is to, some of that money, so I'm not going to take $400,000, but we will immediately on the 15th of February, I promised a lot of people a lot of things. If this bond passes, I'm in probably big trouble. Judy, there's going to be some purple papers coming through, by the way. A little purchase order action going on. But we will immediately order technology for the elementary school, 3-year-old pre-K, kindergarten, first, second. We're probably going to do classroom sets of iPads. That is what we will take the money that we have that we're not having to spend on lease purchases and put it back into our children. We have started the process. We did a very small kind of a pilot in the a high school. We've got a language arts room that has a classroom set of Chromebooks. Our goal is to do that school-wide. And if we don't have to use the money to pay lease purchases, we will be able to do those things. Thank you for asking that, because we have really, last year was our year to do textbooks. We read textbooks all throughout the school. And now it's time for us, and we've been planning for technology.
Last time we purchased books, remember how old those books?
Well, I don't know. I think Washington was still president in the books that I was looking at. They were a little thoroughfare.
I would say that that was a main part, because we ended up purchasing new textbooks and we've got everybody up to date. Now we're looking at technology as we move forward, and that's just a small part
Of what we're doing. We're also seeing the results of what we're doing. Our elementary went from a D school to a B school in 2 years. Our high school, yeah, great. Our high school went from a C to a B. Our middle school is staying consistent, but they're gonna go crazy this year and go up with this third C. But what we're doing here, you can't see it, you know, you can't always see it. But with the progress that we're making, we've got, and I don't want to call her out because she has got this amazingly smart child. Where is she? We've got a young lady that is so close, just 1 point on her ACT away from a $40,000 scholarship. So we've got kids that are doing fantastic things and putting Cherokee on the map for being the place to be. So congratulations to you, Mom. I don't know where you are. Where are you? Oh, there she is. She's raised a smarty pants. So Anna's not just the only one. You guys in the elementary, that's what your kids have to look forward to. The quality of teachers that we have is amazing. I can't. I go on that, and I'm in awe of what the elementary group does. They are fantastic. Middle school and high school too. I just go down there just to kind of watch what they're doing because it's so amazing. So fortunate to have all the right things in place for kids. Good place to work too. Kind of like it.
I might just add in this with the jobs that I have and other coaches and teachers. Most people in Cherokee know Cherokee. They either grew up here, their kids grew up here. In the last 10 or 12 years, my career as a coach in here, I have been in schools other than ours, and people you really don't realize what we have done with the money we have. Last year I went down to a state powerlifting meet, and I won't even bring up the place, but I was down there, they were lifting us in the gym, and they were feeding the coaches in the high school. And I walked into the high school, and I was embarrassed. I mean, when you compare other people's schools to ours, there's really no comparison. And if you want to stay at the standard we're at, we've got to keep doing what we're doing. And if you go to some of those schools and walk in their halls, I promise you, you don't want your kids trying to learn in facilities like those.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. You're so right. And I will say this too. This last week was the first time I've ever had to turn down a transfer. And I had to turn down a transfer because we don't have the room. So we are growing, and people are seeing what we're doing, and they want to be here. So that's a testament, not just to who we are within the system, it's a testament to our community, it's a testament to our parents, it's a testament to our kids. So you're absolutely right. Some of us that have been in other schools, it's definitely different. Good place to be.
What happens if our grade school continues to grow before the 5 years?
Right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and Ms. Richmond and I will look at another portable. I just imagine that we are probably going to be talking pretty positively about another portable for next year. Do you feel that way? Possibly. Because of growth, we are one grade level away from every grade level having 2 classes. Next year, we'll be at every grade level having 2 classes. So until we get to the point where it's time to think about another bond, we'll add another portable, and we'll make sure that we have the room available to have band, have music. Where do you do music in elementary? In the room. In your music room? But we do band in the portables. We have the 3-year-olds in the portable. That's something that we didn't have 2 years ago. We didn't have a 3-year-old program. So now we're touching the lives of 3-year-olds now than we weren't before, and that just makes us better. And some of them aren't ready to come. Don't say no, that's okay. But some of them are. And so we're really proud of the 3-year-old program. Really proud of what we're doing down in that elementary.
second to none, really. And the high school middle school too. Sorry, Mr. Hickman. I just keep ragging on Ruth. But they're doing great things at the high school middle school too. Any other questions, comments? Because we sure appreciate your support. You have anything else?
I'll stick around afterwards. If you don't want to ask a question publicly, you can come find me and talk to me individually if you want to afterwards. I'll stick around for a while, so.
Come on in and we're going to be as honest as we can and have everybody come out and vote on the 14th, be our Valentine, and come out and vote on the 14th because great things are happening in Cherokee, Oklahoma.